Jonathan Dickinson State Park in Hobe Sound, Florida, located in Martin County, Florida, of course, between Hobe Sound and Tequesta and Jupiter. Largest state park in southeast Florida, over 11,500 acres. This place is really big. Has 16 distinct natural communities in it. Some quick history hits here. It's actually named after Quaker merchant Jonathan Dickinson, who shipwrecked here in 1696. It also has a little bit of a history with World War II. It served as a secret radar training base. They called it Camp Murphy from 1942 to 1945. And there's some old foundations still visible from there. It opened as a state park in the year 1950. And inside the park, Hobe Mountain is an 86-foot observation tower on top. It's the highest natural point in South Florida here on Hobe Mountain. Some of the main activities this park offers, they have the river, of course. There's only federally designated wild and scenic river. Kayak and canoe, and I'm sorry, that river is called Loxahatchee River, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. They do kayaking, canoe rentals, and guided tours on site. Motorboat tours and Trappers Nelson Historic 1930s Homestead. Excellent fishing, I understand, as well. They've got snook, largemouth bass, and tarpon. And then there's over 25 miles of multi-use trails for hiking, off-road biking, and horseback riding. The place is really spread out, but they let you use a lot of it with these trails, which is neat. And then, of course, with a lot of these places we've been staying in Florida, it is a birding hotspot. 150 plus species of birds they talk about coming through this park. The campgrounds, they have generally overview. They have two family campgrounds, one called Pine Grove Campground near the entrance. That's where we stayed. And they have 90 sites with full hookups and 30 and 50 amp electric service. They have paved pads. I don't think our pad was paved. The roads were paved and the pads were gravel. Fire rings, picnic tables. They have a lot of space. Big RVs could fit, not a problem. We had a big site. And then the other campground's called the River Campground, and it's about 4 miles into the park over on the Loxahatchee River. And I understand that there's 47 sites. I think they have some hookups, but not full hookups. They don't have sewer. I can't be for sure on that, but I think they don't have full hookup options, and that's why we stayed over at the Pine Grove Campground. But these down at the river are more shaded and private. Suggestions online talk about being great for tents and smaller rigs, not so much the larger setups. And you have a short walk to the river from that campground. And then there's some other stuff. They have group sites, and I saw mention of an equestrian campground, but I didn't get a chance to check that out. So there's some different options there. But some of the fees and reservations cost to enter this park. It does cost $6 per vehicle. And camping is anywhere between $28 and $36 per night. I think we paid $33 per night for full hookups, which is a pretty good deal. You can reserve out to 11 months in advance at FloridaStateParks.reserveamerica.com. And this place is pretty popular. It's booked pretty solid on the weekends and holidays, but some of the weekdays you might be able to sneak in if you don't have a long-term reservation. So starting with our adventure here, well, we continued south down the A1A as much as we can for the views, of course. We try to do that if we're on the coast, try to hug the coastline as much as possible. We did stop for lunch at the Manatee Island Bar and Grill right on the Fort Pierce Inlet. Pretty fun place. We were there kind of a weird time after lunch before dinner, so it wasn't busy at all, but I could tell that this place probably packs it in there. We got sat at a table right on the water, right on the inlet, and saw some pretty cool things. Just some boats coming and going, some animals. We saw the Coast Guard ships coming through the inlet, and the food was pretty good. Pretty good service food. I'd go back. So if you're in Fort Pierce area, check out Manatee Island Bar and Grill. So we come to the park over here at Jonathan Dickinson, and we check in. You come through the front gate, and then they have you pull over into the parking lot and come in to check in. They want you to bring your license plate number from your truck and trailer and your ID. Some parks you kind of check in on the way in, just depends on how they're set up. This one had a large parking lot to the side, so rather than hold up traffic in line, they just have the RVs pull over to the side, walk in, and do the check-in process. But as I mentioned, we get to our campsite, and it's large campsite, full hookups. I actually really like the campsites here in Pine Grove Campground. The sites were large. and there was foliage and trees separating sites for privacy, but not in a forest way or anything to prevent Starlink. So we had very fast internet with the Starlink Mini, which is always a plus. And but we still had privacy between sites, and they were large. We weren't here real long, but we could have stayed longer. It was really comfortable. And then of course they have a shower house and bathrooms. Same building style as we saw in some other state parks in Florida. Blue Springs State Park, I think, for example. But it was pretty good and clean. Nothing to complain about other than generally Florida just has their one laundry set up outside, washer and dryer. But the place was great. We had great weather, good sunset views. They had a big pond that you could have. They had a bench set up, and you could overlook right at the sunset. We actually rode bikes up further into that area one night for the sunset as well. But it was really nice. The pond itself looks like a gator haven, but we didn't get close enough to really spot any while we were there. And if you don't have an RV and you want to stay here, there's options. They have these yurts, kind of like a permanent tent setup rental. They looked really cool. They had electric, there was air conditioning, and they had some type of water service because they had a water line run into them. I'm not sure if that included sewer or bathrooms, showers, but they were popular while we were there. They were filled up. They had cafe lights strung across the front of them, which is neat, and they had hammocks set up. So some different families and groups were there together, and it looked like fun. So there's always options at a lot of these state parks. And if you don't have an RV, or maybe you just don't want to bring your RV, there's options that you can still come and enjoy it. And then I mentioned earlier the bike riding. A lot of bike trails over here at Jonathan Dickinson. A lot of off-road. We're not partaking in the jumping and the berm riding, but they seem to have a ton of off-road. Pretty cool. And then they have some paved roads too, a little more mellow. Checked out the sunset, pretty nice. Bike riding, this place is definitely known for off-road bike riding. We'll put it that way, off-road mountain bikes. There was a ton of people there that were all decked out in gear and protection gear and super off-road bikes and pretty cool stuff that they were hitting the trails. And then they had paved trails as well. And the campground roads were paved for comfortable bike riding for our son and us. And we didn't jump into the off-road mountain bike stuff, but we rode by a bunch of the different trails that kind of intertwined with the paved sections. We rode bikes as much as we could, but I would say definitely bring your bike if you're on the fence and you're coming here and you're not sure. The bike riding is pretty epic. And then the camp store is located down at the river, so it's about 5 miles into the park, 4.5 miles into the park. And that's where we went and picked up some wood. You can bring wood to this place anywhere. I think the rule is anywhere within a 50-mile radius if you purchase wood, which is probably going to be a lot cheaper. We bought wood from the camp store to like $12 a bundle, which is pretty expensive for a state park. But what are you going to do, right? And pick up some stuff, at the local store if they're selling it. You can. My son wanted to make s'mores, so a couple of bundles of wood was worth it, of course. And then some of the wildlife we saw, actually, yeah, it's right. A gopher tortoise came right through our site. I'm assuming he was on his way to one of his holes or his house. I think he had a home in the side of the hill behind our site, but he came right through it and just cut through, not worried about humans or dogs or anything. Pretty big guy too. So we got that on video, I believe. And then we rode bikes over to Hobe Mountain to check that out. I mentioned it being the tallest spot in Florida. Unfortunately, the lookout tower was closed. I think they're in the process of doing some improvements, it looked like. I don't know if they've started or they had something collapse with the wood, but it was closed. You couldn't go up, but you could still walk all the way up the stairs and see pretty well. You could see the ocean, good views all around, and then all over the state park. Neat something to check out. Easy bike ride. I mentioned the river area with the camp store to get the firewood. So they also had, I think they call it River Acres, which is a kayak rental, and then bike rentals, and then their camp store is there. You can do a few things. They have like life jackets and different tours. Overall, I think they might have had some guided boat tours, kayak tours, and different things you could be a part of all through that river camp store. We did check out a beach off side of the campground. We went to a place we called it Jupiter Dog Beach, but officially I think it's called the Jupiter Beach Park Dog Friendly Zone. You can take your dogs off leash between markers number 25 and 59. It's about 2.5 mile beach. The dogs are welcome to romp around and play, and it's open every day, sunrise to sunset. The rules are specifically, will say off leash is okay, but must have voice control of your dog. They can't just run rampant. Now Lily, she is, she means well. Letting her off leash would probably just mean she would be jumping all over all the humans that were nearby and the kids and everybody. So we kept her on her extended like 25-foot leash. But a lot of people were off leash. Their dogs were pretty well behaved. Some people had them leashed. You just got to make sure that you're able to control them. They have, but it was pretty fun. The waves were crashing pretty hard there, and Lily likes to play at the beach, so we were able to get her out and try to wear her out while we all played in the sun as well, and had some fun. Parking was right across the street, real easy. There's a few different places to park, but it's all open, free parking for the beach. Nice little spot. Nice to be able to take the dogs. A lot of these places, the beaches, they are not dog friendly, and just depending, you just got to check that out. And overall, this place was great. We weren't there long. I wish we were. We just had booked a couple days, kind of were going through. Really nice park. I would definitely go back here to Jonathan Dickinson State Park. We didn't, like I said, book for long, but the full hookups, great bike riding, paved roads. It was also in a nice area where we were, and we liked the town. We went into town one night and grabbed something to eat, and just the whole place is pretty good vibes, and a lot to do. There's options and stores and restaurants around there if you want to get out of the park and go check some things out. So a lot going on. But up next, we head over to our first county-owned campground, a park called C.B. Smith Campground in Broward County in Florida, of course. Way cool place. A lot of people were there long term, so we were probably one of the few that we were just there a couple days, but we were probably one of the few that weren't there for 6 months. So a lot of people seem to be wintering there, and there's a lot to offer. So they have all the hookups, and there's a lot going on in this park, and I'm looking forward to that video, and we'll get it out as soon as I can. But they had a little bit of everything, a lot to keep you entertained if you're going to be somewhere for 6 months, I would say. But if you're still with me, I appreciate it. We'll work on getting the next one out as soon as I can. Thanks.